I'm just finishing up a glue up here, and I use these bar clamps, and every time I use these bar clamps I get frustrated with the way they work. And let me show you what frustrates me with bar clamps. As most of you already know, bar clamps, a lot of the good manufacturers put this little lip on the bottom that is supposed to hold the bar clamps, but because this bottom one spins a little bit, they don't always sit properly, and even if they do, they often rock back and forth, and you still don't get much leeway under here if there's not much area to spin this around. So what I did to fix that is I made this rack, and this is my second version of this, and I'm still not happy because look at that. See how they still move around on that. So today we're going to change up this entire rack system, and we're going to make something that works. Now on my next version I'm not going to use this rounded, they're kind of hard to make anyway because you've got to drill all these out, but I'm going to try something. I'm going to try some V-cuts and see if they hold better. Now, the idea with this is this wants to be nice and flat on the bottom, and I always glue up on a nice flat piece of board. So the first thing I'm going to do is I've already cut a couple of test pieces to see what this is going to look like or what this is going to work like. And I'm just going to go over to the miter saw now. We'll cut those up, and then we'll have a couple of blanks, and we'll start cutting some V's in these and see how they work. So there's my two sets of material, and one set I want to cut 45-degree angles in, so they're going to look something like that. The second set I want to cut deeper ones. I'm going to cut, I think, something like 60-degree, and between those two, somewhere we'll find something, hopefully, that'll work better than those rounded ones that we're using. So I want to start off by setting the blade angle at 45 degrees. Now the bars have an outside diameter of 1 inch, so in order to be clear, I'm going to take this down to about 3/4 of an inch. Now before I get started, I'm just going to put a couple of marks on there just so that I know if I ever have to realign this back up that I can use those marks to do that. Now what I'm going to do is mark that area right to there. And now if I measure that, I find that that is 7/8 of an inch. So if I move back 7/8 of an inch on this side, that's where the blade is going to want to enter. Well, that didn't quite work out. I think we'll have to go, we'll retry this at 3/4 of an inch. And the reason I cut this in the middle is because I'm probably not going to use this middle size anyway. So let's, well actually, let's try. The bar actually might not touch that. Let's put a bar in there and see what happens. Okay, so there's a bar, and it's not bottoming out there, but you know, I already don't like this because it seems like it's able to flop around in there. I think before I go any further on the 45 degree, I think I'm going to change the angle and put a steeper angle. I think I'm going to go right to the 60 degree, and let's try that one before we carry on any further, because I already don't like this. Okay, I've set the blade at 30 degrees, and you'll notice that I'm putting a square on there that's actually 60 degrees. See, that's a 60 degrees, because when you set the blade at 30 degrees, it's actually only 30 degrees to the fence. And that's what that marking means on there. So a 30 degree this way and a 30 degree this way means I'm going to get a V that's 60 degrees. Put at least one reference mark on there as well. Now I'm going to cut in the middle again, because that's the least likely place that I'll use the clamps. So we'll start off by making the first cut. Move the fence out of the way. And now you can see that that cut is a little bit overcut on each side, and I don't mind that because I know that the bar isn't going to go deeper than that. So let's put the bar in there and see what that looks like. There's the bar in there. Oh, that's much better. That's way better. That should be, oh yeah. That grips much, much better. Okay, well, now we know what the perfect angle is. Now we need to figure out how we're going to make all of these perfect cuts. So after quite a bit of fussing around on the saw, you can see that I've made a number of cuts here, and I finally figured out a system that works well. And it's simply a couple of marks on the table saw. So let me show you what they are and how they work. So what I've done is set a couple of marks on the saw, and the way it works, it's very simple. The way it works is the first cut you make, you line up your wood with that first cut, and if I push this through, you'll see how that runs through the saw just like that. But then when you get finished, you'll have just a slot in there, and what you can do is if you take that and turn it around, and now remember you only have a slot in here, and if you take that slot and line it up with that second mark and push it through, it will give you that second cut. So let's show you what that looks like. Okay, just so you can see that, I've marked this these boards, and I've gone back to the 45 one because I was running out of space with the other one. So we'll just line up those marks there, and we mark that right there, line that right up with that felt pen mark. Now I've taken a moment to mark all of my where all of my primary cuts are going to be, and then I'll just have to turn it around. So I'm just going to go ahead and start cutting these now that you know how it works. we need to make sure that we have a way of clearing these chips off of here when they come out so that they don't fly back at us. So I'm going to have this piece of wood handy that I can just move them out of the way and flick them off the table with. You can't use a brush or something. You don't want to get anything caught in there, and just a thin little piece of wood is all that I'm going to need to require to move those out of the way. Well, there's our base, and I'm anxious to see how they grip pretty good. You know, I had another thought while I was cutting these. You know, I'm a big fan of this anti-skid stuff, and you know, you could glue or staple some of that in there. I don't think I'm going to need to. I'm pretty happy the way these are sitting in here. Okay, just set all the clamps on there. Let's go get the wood and lay that on there. Yeah, that's nice and sturdy. It's up. It's not moving around. That's perfect. Let's go ahead and do the glue up. Out. There we go. Well, I'm really happy the way this has worked out. For me, doing glue-ups is one of the most frustrating things about woodworking because the clamps always seem to be falling on their side and not lining up properly. But this new little stand, I think, it looks like it solved that. And if it hasn't, I can use that anti-skid material on there and just staple it on the edges, and that'll really keep it firm. So there's an idea for you for your workshop. Don't forget, if you haven't already, subscribe to us. We ask you to do that. We ask you to follow us on Twitter, follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook. I'm Colin Cadet for Woodworkweb. Thanks for watching.